WNY Coasters. Six Flags' new management will be very successful and match or surpass Cedar Fair in quality. Who knows how this is really going to play out, but as of right now, I think I'm going to sell. It's going to take a long time to repair Six Flags' image. They are charging more money now. If they can manage to get as many people, or just about as many people as before, maybe they can use that money for something great. The thing is, they'll have to be patient. They'll have to be willing to go through some pain. My only worry is that it's not going to work out in the short term. They may get nervous and revert back to the discount chain just to save their butts. Coaster Hour. The first thrilling next-generation Vekoma in North America is announced in 2022 for 2023. I'm gonna buy this. This was actually my bold prediction for 2022. I said somewhere, somehow, a park is going to announce one of these Vekomas. There were two that really stood out for me. One was Kentucky Kingdom. I can see them doing this, especially if they take out T3. The other was Six Flags New England. They need a launch coaster. Six Flags does a lot of work with S&S Sansei. Maybe some other park somewhere will surprise us. I just don't have anything else on my radar. Brandon Thai. Canada's Wonderland will remove Time Warp and Flight Deck for a B&M surf coaster. I'm buying this. They need a launch coaster. I mentioned in my video that a mock multi-launch makes a lot of sense, but B&M has done a ton of work with this park. They got the first B&M Giga for this park. I could absolutely see them getting the first surf coaster. It makes a lot of sense, so even if it never happens, I'm buying it as a logical idea. S. Meyer 13. Holiday World gets a B&M Hyper in 2024. It makes a lot of sense for Holiday World to get a new coaster in 2024. It took 9 years between Voyage and Thunderbird, and 2024 will be another 9 years since Thunderbird. If Holiday World is going big every 9 years, I think a B&M Hyper is entirely possible. I'm buying this. Thunderbird opened up a whole new world for this park. State-of-the-art inverting steel coasters are now in the mix, not just Woodies. A Hyper is a crowd pleaser. It's expensive, but Holiday World will pay for it. Stay for DD. Disney's Star Wars Hotel will not be popular. Big sell on this one. If we've learned anything over the years, it's that people love Star Wars. They'll pay anything for Star Wars, and they love Disney, so they'll find a market of people who will fill up that hotel. It won't be me, but those people, they're out there. Caesar Smoothie. Cedar Fair buys Magic Mountain after Six Flags' inevitable second bankruptcy. I think that's a lot presumptuous to think that Six Flags is going back into bankruptcy. It could happen, but I wouldn't make that call right now. Regardless, I don't think Cedar Fair would take over. I'd pick Herschend and SeaWorld over Cedar Fair. It seems like they've been the least aggressive chain over the last few years. They'll target something every now and then, something they really think will work for them. This ranges from the Paramount takeover in 2006, all the way to the Schlitterbahn water parks. I would be really shocked if Cedar Fair made a move on Magic Mountain. Sam Diomede. Busch Gardens Tampa gets another major coaster in the next few years, this being due to Iron Gwazi not doing as well as planned due to timing of opening. I'm selling this. I think Iron Gwazi will do just fine. There was a lot of griping about them holding onto it for 2 years, but I think that'll all fade away fast. If they get a new ride, it won't be because Iron Gwazi was a failure. Given everything that's happened with SeaWorld over the last 2 years, I don't see them jumping right into another new major coaster for another 4 years at least. Coaster John. An Intamin Stratocoaster will bite the dust in the next 5 years. This is really interesting, but I'm gonna sell. They'll do something to make it more reliable before they scrap it. LSMs are the wave of the present and the future. Can they get enough speed built up to clear that 420-foot top hat? Technology keeps advancing. Maybe they can get enough LSMs on there to even start climbing the top hat. Think of something like Wicked at Lagoon. I also got a buy or sell from OTS Coasters, saying they could replace this with a compressed air launch, but I don't think that track record is much better. I'm editing this in with news that Cedar Point will not reopen Top Thrill Dragster in 2022. That just made this question a whole lot more real. The park just had their state investigation finish, following the accident this past summer where someone got hit by a metal piece flying off the train. Cedar Fair is probably considering a lot of options here. First, I bet they install a big canvas over the queue. This is cheap and quick, and they can point to that and say this will never happen again. That would not take a whole year to get done. Next, maybe Cedar Fair takes this time to address the ride's reliability. I was thinking LSMs eventually being able to get this ride up to speed, but that may not be ready in the short term. Finally, they could be considering taking it down. It's possible they don't know what to do right now. And just like with Volcano, they shut it down to evaluate, and about a year later, they announced it would never reopen. This sounds like a bad scenario, but if they do that, you can guarantee they would replace it with something huge. An RMC T-Rex, maybe some kind of huge S&S air launch. It would be really exciting. Austin Shaw. Silver Dollar City gets a B&M Terrain Hyper by 2025. I'm buying this. If you look at what Silver Dollar City has, there's not a whole lot they could get that could make a big splash. Maybe an Axis, but they already have a weird coaster like that with Time Traveler. Powder Cake is kind of like a Hyper, but not enough to not need an actual Hyper. I think it's a perfect addition for the park. Herschend is willing to spend the money. I could definitely see a Hyper in that park. I think within the next 5 years, a Hyper will either come to this park or Dollywood. Theme Park Horizons. Funspot Orlando will get an RMC Raptor by 2025. I'm buying this. It seems like the perfect addition. This park hasn't gotten a new coaster in almost 10 years. Those Raptors were made for a park like Fun Spot. They probably won't get a spinning coaster because Kissimmee has one. So unless they get a relocated coaster like Hurricane, I don't see why they wouldn't add a Raptor in the next 3 years. Aiden Clifford. Cedar Fair will become more aggressive in the industry within this next decade. A couple years ago, I predicted that Cedar Fair would acquire a coaster park. That didn't happen. They did acquire the Schlitterbahn water parks in Texas, but that's been it ever since 2006. Buying the Paramount parks was a huge move, but that was totally out of Cedar Fair's character. Once Cedar Fair became an official chain, they bought Dorney Park in 1992, Worlds of Fun in 1995, Knott's in 1997, and Michigan's Adventure in 2001. It seems like they wait for the perfect opportunity, and if they don't see one, they're gonna stay put. I wouldn't bet on any big moves that would be considered aggressive in the next decade. Merrick. SeaWorld will try to purchase Herschend. I'm buying this. Here's my reasoning. Why not? Cedar Fair turned them down, thankfully. If they want to expand, why not target Herschend? If you're not familiar, this company operates Dollywood, Silver Dollar City, Wild Adventures, and most recently, Kentucky Kingdom. The only question is, was SeaWorld serious about that offer? Or was that just some kind of show of strength? There's a lot of people that think this was all for show. Regardless, it doesn't matter if the chain is up for sale or not. SeaWorld will come in and drop an offer anyway. Paul Young. Six Flags America will get a new coaster by 2028. It's been a long time since they got anything new. We're talking 21 years. That seems impossible, considering the park isn't that small. It's not like Frontier City. This was once a favorite park in the chain. Six Flags paid as much attention to this park as any other park, but that dropped off a cliff after 2001. So, will we see something here over the next 6 years? I'm buying this. Six Flags has a new CEO. He's bringing a new approach to investment, and maybe that'll end up working in Six Flags America's favor. Even if we're talking about a free spin, that counts. John Ruening. Vekoma will build a traditional hypercoaster by 2025. Some of you may remember when Energylandia was debating between an Intamin Hyper and a Vekoma Hyper. They went with Intamin, but Vekoma's model is still out there. That's the first step. Next, they need to find a buyer. Vekoma is so popular in Europe and Asia, it seems like they open multiple major coasters every year. It's only a matter of time before some park over there wants a Hyper, and they ask Vekoma to do it. It's probably a cheaper option than other manufacturers, so I can see it happening over the next 3 years. Wheatman 14 Adventures in Roblox. American Eagle will be refurbished by 2025. I'm buying this. I heard the clock was ticking on American Eagle. That was a couple years ago. The park really needs to make a call on its future. They might rip it out for something new. I also heard they can't do this because the freeway is too close. If they want to keep American Eagle around, which I personally think they should do, we'll see some new trains on there by 2025. Maybe, hopefully some track work also. Kyle Minnelli. Six Flags Great America will remove their go-karts and Buccaneer Battle to build a dive coaster. I think it's unlikely to remove 2 rides for a dive coaster, but I do think this park could definitely end up with a dive coaster. So let's measure the plot. This is 515 by 197 feet, separated by a road in the park's back area. This is too small on either side for a dive like Valraven, and it's way too thin for a dive like Griffin. This is even about 100 feet too thin for a dive like Emperor. A smaller scale dive coaster with a linear layout could work here, so I guess it can't be ruled out. It's just a little too specific for me to buy. I do hope at least the park knows they can do this if they want to. Wrench. Carowinds gets a GCI or a Gravity Group wooden coaster as their next coaster. If you look at the Carowinds lineup, a modern wooden coaster is their biggest gap, so I'm buying this. It makes perfect sense to RMC Hurler, and then they can get a coaster like American Thunder or Texas Stingray. Unless they want something big from Gravity Group, I'm seeing a GCI here. They already have a family wooden coaster, so it wouldn't make sense for them to add something like Kentucky Flyer. Cedar Fair has also never worked with Gravity Group. It does seem like they were going to add one for Dorney Park, so at least it's on the table. Still, I see a 100-foot GCI in their future. Let's end episode 3 with Barry. The Knott's Giga will be built later this year. When I first heard this rumor, I thought it was insane. Then we saw the leaked plans and I realized that Cedar Fair was really going for this thing. Assuming those plans are real, and I've never heard anyone imply that they're not, the only thing standing in their way is city approval. Knott's is surrounded by homes and businesses, but they do already have a 300-foot ride at Supreme Scream. The big question here is noise. If they fill the track with sand and explain that to the city, maybe they get away with it. If I had to bet on it, I would say it happens. It's hard to imagine seeing that right in the middle of Knott's, but if Cedar Fair wants to do it, I won't complain. Benji Storm. Worlds of Fun will not get a new coaster anytime soon. How long can Cedar Fair torture a park? You think 13 years is too long and they can't go much further? Michigan's Adventure has something to say about that. I'm buying this because I can't bet on Cedar Fair to add anything new to Worlds of Fun. Some parks are easy to predict. Carowinds, Kings Island, Canada's Wonderland. They all get new coasters every 4 years or so. For all the small parks, it's impossible to know. If your home Cedar Fair park is Worlds of Fun, like it is for me now, I guess Kings Island isn't that far away, so go there. SCR stuff. Alton Towers will get Secret Weapon 9 in 2025. I'm buying this. Who knows, it could even be sooner. There was an 8-year gap between SW5 and 6, Air and 13. But then, only 3 years till Smiler, and 5 more years till Wicker Man. 2025 is 7 years from Wicker Man, so they would be due. With the emergence of the B&M Surf Coaster, that seems like a perfect addition for Alton Towers, trying to stay under the tree line, but still offering an awesome and thrilling ride. Mitchell Rees. The rumored shuttle wooden coaster for Dorney Park will open within the next couple years. I'm buying this. It seemed like this was a slam dunk for the park, and then it got canned for COVID. But if they wanted to do this in the past, I don't see why they wouldn't want to do it in the future. I know plans get canceled sometimes. We just saw it with Vipera at LeBron. But once everything gets back to normal completely, I think it's still gonna happen. That probably means the end of Possessed, but Dorney really needs a new coaster, and this would be a good one. The Young Chef. Six Flags Over Georgia will get the first SNS Axis in response to Air Force One. I really thought Fiesta was gonna end up with the first Axis, but they got the dive instead. That opens up the possibility of an Axis for Over Georgia, and the sudden draw of Funspot Atlanta makes this really interesting. Funspot isn't threatening them at all, but they may use Air Force One's popularity to their advantage. They may want to be able to point to something new and awesome, and get people to spend a second day in Atlanta. An Axis would make that splash a lot more than a free spin, but so would an SNS launch coaster. I like the idea so much that I'm gonna buy it, although it could be a lot of different things, even a small B&M dive. Big J Space. Kings Island will be getting a replacement for Vortex in 2023. I'm buying this, but I don't know about 2023. I would bet on 2024. I think whatever new coaster they get, it'll go in the Vortex plot. There's only one exception, and that would be the aforementioned Son of Beast RMC iBox coaster. That would make more sense to use the land behind Banshee where Son of Beast used to sit. Banshee was considered to be a replacement for Son of Beast, but it barely uses any of its land. If they were to get a Mach Multi-Launch, or a Mach Extreme Spinner, or a B&M Dive, or a Gerstlauer Infinity, I think anything like that goes in the Vortex plot of land, but I think 2023 is too soon.